Hello, everyone. My name is Brittany Jones-Cooper. First, I want to know, wasn't that an amazing first episode? Did you guys enjoy it? I mean, I have a lot of thoughts and opinions and feelings about it, but you're not here to listen to me. So let's bring out the creators and the stars of The Lady in the Lake. First, we're going to welcome Alma Har'el. As a writer, director, and executive producer, Alma has produced inspiring work like the documentary Bombay Beach, which won the top prize at the Tribeca Film Festival and has been taught at Harvard and NYU as a genre-redefining work. Her most recent film, Honey Boy, starring Shia LaBeouf, won the Jury Award for Vision and Craft at the Sundance Film Festival, as well as the Directors Guild of America's Award for the first-time feature film. Har'el created and directed Lady in the Lake, which marks her first time as a showrunner. Give it up. All right, so our next panelist, after graduation from Yale School of Drama in 2019, Moses Ingram's screen career began in 2020 when she was cast as Jolene on the hit show The Queen's Gambit. We all know and love that show, a role which earned her an Emmy nomination. In 2021, she made her film debut in The Tragedy of Macbeth on Apple TV+, and has continued to wow us on TV screens as the villainous Reva Sevendor on Obi-Wan Kenobi. Ingram's career has a long runway, and we are so excited to have her join us tonight. Welcome, Ingram. Moses Ingram. I mean, the dress is gorgeous, though. Can we just give it up for the dress? All right, so Natalie Portman is an Academy Award-winning actress, a director, producer, author, and activist. She won the Oscar for Best Actress in 2010 for Black Swan, and has appeared in many of her favorite films, including Jackie, Closer, Thor, and most recently, May December, which she produced with her company, Mountain A. Portman is also an executive producer on Lady in the Lake, and the miniseries marks her first major role on TV. Put your hands together for Natalie Portman. You know, I've just binged the entire miniseries, and so it's hard for me not to see your characters because the women you portray on screen are so dynamic, and really you're going to keep thinking for days and weeks after you watch this, I think, because there's so many themes. And I felt like throughout there's this sultry, suspenseful feeling, and your characters are both so forceful and also so fragile, so there's so much to discuss. I want to start at the end with you, though, Alma. Lady in the Lake is adapted from Laura Lippman's best-selling mystery novel. So what drew you to the material, and when did you find the book?
So first of all, thank you for having us, and thank you for coming and watching the first episode. I was given the book by a man who's no longer with us by the name of Jean-Marc Vallée. Was a true soldier of cinema and made some beautiful films and beautiful television. And he brought me the book and said, you have to direct this. And I met with Miss Portman here, and she's considering, playing Maddie Morgenstern. So that was enough to get my head spinning. And then I read the book and was really just so taken by the intricate, way it combined character work and people and Baltimore with this twists and turns and historical mystery, and the fact that it was inspired by true murders that one of them was never really solved. So yeah, all of that just kind of made me dive right in.
Yeah. This was not a quick process, though, right?
3 years and a half.
Yeah. like why? Like why? I mean, that's a long time, right?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I know, but I also could have never foreseen what it would take, I think, but that's very typical of how I do things. I'm kind of the fool, I kind of go into things and I always look for something that seems impossible, and then I discover what it takes. So it was just like to be a showrunner for the first time, to write and direct, and I wouldn't be able to do it without these incredible ladies who made it all possible and supported me through this whole thing.
I would say you took just the right amount of time because it is very well done. So that's how long it takes. That's how long it takes.
Thank you. It was a lot of development and reimagining the whole thing, so we can just rethink a part of the book that was, I think, was very. The book itself was very focused on Maddie and her perspective. There was a lot of other perspectives. It was beautifully woven with a lot of characters. But I fell in love with Maddie and Cleo, and we both, Natalie and me, when we first met, we agreed that we have to kind of reimagine the book so it becomes a two-hander. So that was, that took quite a while.
Absolutely. And you're an executive producer on the miniseries. So what was it about this script that, one, made you want to produce it, and two, star in it?
Well, Jean-Marc, who devastatingly we lost right before the filming started, and his producing partner, Nathan Ross, came to me and made this shidduch between me and Alma that I'm so grateful for. They were like, you two need to work together. And they were so right. And it was, I was such an admirer of her work. And then my experience with her exceeded my wildest dream of what she could be. And it was an extraordinary process, very challenging, but so inspiring and beautiful every day because of Alma's leadership and vision and nurturing and energy and just positivity and the ability, like people warned me before doing it, they said, be careful having one director do the entire series because they all go crazy. It's so much work. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, watching how she just did it with a smile every day, with imagination, with vision, with curiosity, with welcoming collaboration, with like beautiful vision all the time, and it was just astonishing and never lost it even a little bit. It was amazing.
How does the experience change for you as an actor and a producer on a project, or does it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It changes. I mean, you really have to especially, we had a lot of weird challenges on this one.
Give me one.
Like an actor broke his collarbone walking up the steps between takes.
So weird, yeah.
Was taken out on a stretcher while we were shooting,
Yeah.
and we had to figure out how to finish the scene on a location that we only had for 2 days, and I'd be shooting a scene, and then they'd be like, we have a crisis, and we'd run into the other room and have a Zoom with the 10 producers. But the beauty of it was that we all loved each other and we worked well together, and we always worked as a team to solve the issues that would come up, which felt like a lot. Yeah. And it wasn't it was random. It was not like there was, people doing things wrong. It was that kind of
broken collarbones.
Broken out of nowhere, yeah.
That is phenomenal. But it sounds like the chemistry helped you guys work through all of that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And our producing team was incredible.
Yeah, and kind of brought a lot of blessings with them in the same way that we got to work with Moses. Was one of some logistical reasons losing our main actress, and while production is going on and needing to recast it, and then having the gods of cinema shine on TV and bring us Moses Ingram. So that was kind of that feeling you have sometimes on a set where you're like, wait, am I cursed or blessed? What's going on here?
So Moses, you walked into the situation a little later. So tell me about your experience.
Yes, I came in very late, but I was so excited to. I mean, it's no secret, big shoes to fill, but I'm happy to fill them,
Well, you filled them.
It's been exceptional to have an experience that I feel has been so fulfilling, the most fulfilling I've had in my career thus far. It becomes something, it's like once you've seen it, you can't unsee it, You just want more of it. And I think ever since, the fiber of my person has been changed.
Yeah. What was it about Cleo that really drew you to her? Because she is an incredibly dynamic character. But when you first got that script, what made you say the hard yes?
I mean, it was easy. The words kind of just flowed. Sometimes you have to make words fit in your mouth because it's your job to. And sometimes they just stick to you like a magnet, like it's for you. You know, it takes place in Baltimore, where I'm from. You know, I could picture the streets. I knew where everything was. You know, it fit like a glove.
It feels like a glove. We're going to get more into some of that later. Really quick though, I know Alma, your previous project, Honey Boy, you guys shot in 19 days. And this was 106 days, right?
Yeah.
So as a first-time showrunner, what was this adjustment period like for you? What were some maybe highs and lows of the experience for you?
Oh man, you know, it was just so much logistics to make this work, and like, I think the biggest mind of television is this thing called, excuse my language, crossboarding.
Yep.
Which is, you know, usually you shoot like sometimes like 1 or 2 episodes at a time, and you mix up everything you shoot by location or by character availability, and then you just shoot everything out of order. But this was like 7 hours shot out of order, and it's like me and my script supervisor Sharon Watt, who was really important to my process. We said it was like taking 7 boxes of 1,000 pieces puzzle and mixing all of them together and then trying to make the puzzle without knowing what the picture is on the box. So we were just like trying to figure it out as we went along, because we were also rewriting. I was rewriting it during the night because once Moses was cast, you know, I felt like we had to do some rewrites, as you always do when somebody comes and you kind of want to make sure it fits, you know, like she says, and feels right. So it was very challenging to do that, and I would say that these actresses, what astounded me is their ability to track that, because sometimes you would have, I'll never forget this one scene when I was editing, because the editing process was a whole other thing, but I was editing it and I'm like watching Natalie, I'm like, oh my God, this shot was on the first day, and she gets into the car, she talks to her son, she gets out, this is 4 months later. And then he looks at her out of the car, and that's like 2 months after that. And I'm just like, it's seamless, you know, how they tracked it emotionally and got there. And that was incredibly challenging to do. I mean, I know directors that wouldn't do it for an hour and a half. So to do that like that was definitely one of the biggest challenges.
Did it make you want to do more TV?
If it's with these women out there.
Natalie, you had a prolific film career, right? So this is your first kind of starring role on television. And I read in an interview that you said this is, the shoot was exponentially harder than a film. She kind of detailed some, but for you, why was it just so much more so different or more difficult?
Well, first of all, there's so much more detail that you fill out in a character when you have 7 hours to tell them, tell their self. And then second of all, just like Alma was talking about, energetically, it's a marathon compared to a sprint. So it's really, I mean, you see every day was emotional and hard scenes. Yeah. And we shot 16, 17-hour days, you know, for months, for 5-6 months. And, you know, we often, like May, December, we shot in like 23 days or something. You know, you're used to these, like for 30 years, I've had this rhythm of like, you shoot for like 20 to 40 days and then you're out and you can kind of give everything. And this, you have to pace yourself a little bit more, or just figure out how to give that much on a longer time.
And on top of that, in the heat of Charm City, with all the humidity, to wear a wool coat and pretend it's winter is not easy, you know, for 5-6 months. So that was on top of that pretty challenging.
I never thought about the fact that you're just sitting in that character for so much longer. Yeah. So let's move over into the characters, because Maddie and Cleo have a lot going on. Is maybe the easiest way to say that. So Natalie, let's start with Maddie. You know, as a viewer, I empathize with her, right? She wants to be free. She wants to chart her own path. She wants to kind of follow some of these dreams deferred. She has her own way of going about it. So what do you think motivates her?
I think she really is intent on charting her own path, like you said, and telling her story. And I feel like there's a lot of bottled up frustration of that she's in this kind of trapped world, and when it comes out, it kind of erupts, and it goes too far sometimes. And she's so focused on her own struggle that makes her not realize that she might be stepping on someone else's. And it's the tragedy of like, you know, that Alma and I talked a lot about when we first met, of the oppressed possibly being an oppressor as well.
Absolutely. So then your experience, you said typically you might be in a character for a shorter amount of time. Was it fun for you to get to stay with Maddie longer?
It was super fun because of Alma's environment. I think Alma really created a space where we could play, where we could improvise, where she welcomed contributions with a great vision. I mean, she knew how to guide us toward where we were going, but also allowed this freedom. And so it was playing every day, and it was really, really fun.
Did you feel the same way? I see you nodding, like you felt like...
No, definitely. I think I would like you to repeat the question.
I get it, press day. No, just like the vibe on set being, it sounds like collaborative and open and safe. So if you're having a hard day maybe and you're in a character, it sounded like you could...
No, absolutely. I totally agree. I think all of those things you said are absolutely true. To be at the helm of something so large and to still be in a place where you can be so, free and egoless that you want to hear everyone's ideas, what might make it better. I wrote it like this, but do you think it might sound better like this? Or how would you say it? Things like that really, made room for me. I felt like I was in a situation where I could really trust where I was going. We shot some scenes in the beginning where there were other parts that I hadn't got to yet, and Alma was like, it's a little bit of this and a little bit of this, and it's this, and you just put it together, So yeah, we all were in really, really great hands with Alma.
Yeah. And I read you said that your grandmother actually lived in Baltimore and was around the same age as Maddie. So how did she come into your character at all?
Absolutely. I mean, it was really magical because I was doing a family tree for my mom for her birthday around the same time that I was researching for the film. And I knew that my grandmother was born in Baltimore, but all of a sudden I started finding like immigration records of my great-grandparents from Eastern Europe to Baltimore, and census records of their addresses on the streets I was walking on. And, I went to the Jewish deli that's been open for 100 years and was like, my great-grandmother probably brought her brisket there, and it was so wild because every generation of my family has lived in a different place, a different city, a different country often, and so I've never had a connection to place before, and it was very moving to feel that connection. I mean, my grandmother was born in Baltimore, didn't even live there. She moved to Cincinnati after. So it's really like everything's so disconnected, I think, in Jewish history from like place is not what you hold on to. It's like the book you hold on to, and so, it was really special.
I think it's really powerful. I'm into family genealogy stuff, and I think it is so powerful when you go back to the place. And just the comment on the deli, I would imagine that lives in you now.
Yeah, well, especially with Alma's scene that she wrote, where like the blood is so visceral,
Did that help you with your mid-Atlantic accent at all? Your roots in Maryland?
No. That was very special, very specific accent. That was fun to learn.
It is, have you seen the SNL skit about it?
No.
There's a whole, anybody? Just me? Okay, cool. Because it's so unique and so difficult to kind of get the O's are very distinct.
Oh, it's a SNL skit about the Baltimore accent?
Yeah, right?
Oh, I've never seen this.
It's like, or something.
That is so disrespectful.
It'll make you laugh.
No, it's a real beauty to that language. It really is. Our way of speaking, there are certain sounds that, ring true to your ear if you know the place. Like frog and dog become frug and dug. But it's really beautiful and it's really contributed to, who I am today. It's something that I cherish. I think those are beautiful sounds.
You said Doug?
Doug.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm practicing.
That's
I wanted
it.
to hear it. On that, you are from Baltimore, right?
Yes.
So how did growing up in Maryland kind of help you get into Cleo and understand not only her, but her community? Because so much of her story is the community she's living in.
Definitely. I think from the time I read it, I could see on paper, you know, the streets are streets that I know like the back of my hand. The room, you know, where we filmed the scene with all the Cleos in blue coats. I graduated from high school in that building, you know. Places that I used to wait for the bus, I'm riding down the street in a red Corvette. You know, I thought for so many years for something to happen in my life, I needed to leave Baltimore just for the best thing to happen to me, to bring me right back home.
I have to say Cleo is so many black women that I know as well. You know, she's so strong. Even her name, Cleopatra, just like tells you how strong she is.
Definitely.
Did you base her off of any women that you know, or did you find inspiration in the women in your life and maybe some of the struggles that you witnessed growing up?
Yeah, in school we say this thing, or we said this thing, you know, there are some things that you get for free, things that you don't really have to work for, you just innately know and they kind of come to you. And I feel like that was a lot of the experience that I had with Cleo, things that just, you know, I've seen a lot of or heard a lot of, you know, so.
Yeah. I just enjoyed your performance so much because I just saw so many women in my life, down to just how you looked at people. Because our moms don't really have to say that much often, it's just the look.
Yeah.
And when you see it on screen done right, you're like, that's, I love it, and I'm a little scared. So, Alma, we just talked about their characters and their performances. How did you approach directing them differently, or what is your approach with actors and helping them sort of find their voice in the character?
I mean, listen, these ladies is watching them work as a master class. So it's not like I needed to teach them anything or show them anything. It was just more about creating the right environment for them to flourish and you know, bring their game, not mine. I was in awe of everything they're doing every day. I just have true faith in process, you know. So it's just allowing for process, not being afraid to change things, you know, being intuitive and letting the characters speak through them, you know, and come to them and you know, and then capture it in the best way you can and then play in the edit. So I just really believe in the process and not imposing certain expectations every minute on what it should be, and instead of it being open to receiving what's coming through. And that was the beauty of it. And then I think the hard thing and the challenging thing is taking this whole cast, and I just want to say this was a dream to work with some of the actors here. I mean, every actor is a star to me in this show, you know, and I was just in love with you know, how they birthed these people to write something for the first time and to see it come to life like that with so many talented people. And the challenging thing about it is just to manage the tone, you know. It's just to be able to say murder, tension, mystery in the right moments, and then in other moments know how to shift from that, you know. So just you've seen one episode, but this show really takes a lot of twists and turns, both in the plot and in tonally, like how we tell the story. So to be able to do that and go from things that feel very character-driven or explore, you know, things that are, I always say it's a little bit like one leg in the grave and one is on a banana peel, you know, like it's just like some serious heavy stuff that really is hard to admit and hard to tackle. And then being able to find what's funny about it, or just let it go into an imaginary place or subconscious. So yeah, just managing that and the fact that they could just do that so seamlessly and go from something that can feel grounded and emotional and real and authentic to something that and suddenly dance in a way that, you know, blows my mind is you know, this is their toolbox, not mine.
Yeah. Were there any unique challenges though with her coming in late and then you're having to sort of I mean, that
Oh,
just seems
hell
like it
yeah.
would be an obstacle.
I mean, every day was a challenge. It's incredible how many challenges you can have on a day, you know, and on a set like this, and how many decisions you have to make. I remember I would sit and I say, "Wow, I think I made like 1,000 decisions today." I spoke to 300 people. So yeah, there was challenges every day. With Moses coming in, though, it was really just a big blessing, because I'll never forget the first day she came, and it was, we just talked about it because it was my birthday, and she stepped into the set, and it was a lot of tension. There was a lot of tension about how we're going to pull this off. We haven't worked together. She had hardly any time to prep. This is a show that usually actors would prep for quite a while, you know.
Moses, how much time did you have?
Maybe 2 or 3 weeks.
Which is, I mean, usually it would be like, you know, I don't know, 3 to 6 months, I would say, that you know this is gonna come. So, yeah, but she came in, I remember this, it was a scene from episode 2. She sits in a car in that blue coat that comes in later, and I just remember the first shot, she looked back in fear, and I just remember I hear a voice in my head, like, we have a show. And like, I was just like, wow, she's iconic. I was just like so happy, you know?
Yeah,
and
I
we
remember
never looked back.
I think the first time we saw Moses in character, we held hands and jumped. And we're like, oh my God, she's so brilliant. Like, she's just
Yeah.
extraordinary.
Thanks.
I'm curious for the two of you. You don't have a lot of scenes together, but how did your performances sort of inspire or encourage each other while you were filming or shooting?
Yeah, I'm very sad that our characters didn't intersect more, because I loved getting to work opposite Moses. I think she's really one of the greatest actresses of her generation, and I'm in awe of what she did in the series. Wait till you see the rest. It's pretty mind-blowing. And she sings, spoiler alert, and it's like she's also the best singer as well as being the best actress. But I think that's also really part of the story, is that these two women have these parallel lives and are both struggling to get free with different sets of challenges, but don't connect. They have so much to connect about, and it's the tragedy that they, like, particularly Maddie, will not look to another woman's struggle, and yeah, the danger of that, of being so wrapped up in your own struggle that you're blind to someone else's.
Yeah.
How did her performance inspire you, or did it help you connect with different parts of?
Yeah, when I first came on and I was sort of getting a feel for what it would be like, Alma and I sat outside at the pool one of the days, and she pulled out her phone and she showed me the sizzle reel, which are a lot of clips that are actually in the trailer now. And I remember watching it thinking, oh my God, that's Natalie Portman. It's like, you gonna put me next to her? You know, and I think it just is overwhelming, you know, but in a really beautiful way. You want to rise to the occasion of what's happening. I don't want Natalie Portman disappointed in me. You know? So, I mean, it's definitely one of those things where it's like, you just kind of go with it.
Yeah.
You just go with it, yeah.
You mentioned how your characters are walking different paths, so they're not necessarily going to spend a day in the other person's shoes. But in that first episode, we do see them wear the same dress.
Yes.
So can you guys just take me through that scene and kind of like what emotions it brings up for you when you watch it, and what you kind of hope audiences take away from that exchange? Because I took away a lot, and I'm sure we all will take away something different. But
Yeah. I mean, I guess being inside of it, you know, you sort of just feel like a body being handled as a mannequin, you know, to be dressed, to be undressed, not to speak. Yeah, I feel like that's how I would describe it on my end.
yeah.
And it was an extraordinary scenario that Alma created and an image, because they're separated by this glass, of course.
Yes.
And Maddie's looking at Cleo, but she's not looking at Cleo, she's looking at the dress. And there's even a moment where she sees her own reflection in the glass. And it's like kind of emblematic of the entire series, that she can't see the humanity in front of her.
Yeah. I just personally, when I watched that scene, like as a Black woman, I felt like that embarrassment, you know, that kind of shame. And then with Maddie too, she also has to kind of navigate that shame as a Jewish woman. And that, so they both find themselves in these uncomfortable situations. And I felt like that was one place where they connected, where you're like, maybe if they did meet and they could connect over that, but because the world is so rough, they'll never.
I wouldn't call it shame.
Okay.
I feel like, at least for me, you know, any shame that doesn't belong to Cleo. You know what I mean? I feel like, if anything, it's the audacity of these people to handle me in this way and rip a dress right off my back. I don't think it's Cleo's shame at all.
I agree. You know, Alma, there's always going to be differences when you're adapting a book to TV or film. And I know that the author, Laura Lippman, is an executive producer on the show and told you, you can have freedom with this, take some liberties, correct? So tell me what the conversation was like for her and how that kind of opened you up in this process.
You know, I have to be completely honest that I met Laura Lippman for the first time on set. And I think Natalie and me were pretty nervous of her coming to see it. And was told she was brought to tears by the monitor, so that made us feel better, to make Laura Lippman cry a little. But I'm kidding. But we were really nervous appreciated her book so much and her letting us take such freedom, you know. So we wanted her to feel proud and happy about what we did. But I think that the thing that I really felt when adapting it, like you're saying, and taking that freedom, was just that the book itself suggests and gives an opportunity to explore this thing that we kind of touched upon, which is the duality that a lot of Ashkenazi Jews get to experience, of both being persecuted but also, you know, becoming an oppressor in certain situations. And the reality of Baltimore that I think was revealed to me when I got into researching, because I was like, reading the book, and then we'll say, okay, we're going to turn it into a two-hander surgery. And, you know, the reality of the culture that was there at the time, the musicality of it, Penn Avenue and the clubs and the legendary musicians that have passed through that town and informed the city, and how little I knew about that city as an immigrant who was only, admittedly, was fed by things that I knew from The Wire. You know, that was my.
Weren't we all?
That was my knowledge of that place. So researching it, great show, by the way. And Wood Harris, which appears here, is a nod to the greatness. But you know, just finding out all that stuff. I've been doing press all day, and I'm keeping this dream book with me as an inspiration, because reading about all this time where people were gambling on their dreams, you know, and what that says to you about the hopes and dreams for the pursuit of happiness, and then the crushing reality of the world around us, you know, that puts us into that place where the water is boiling and we become crabs in a basket. The economical reality that Shell speaks about later on in the show, like you said, where he quotes and references a speech that Malcolm X gave when he speaks about the bullet or the ballot. And he says, it's not the bullet or the ballot, it's the bank, you know. And so just taking the liberty to kind of swim in that and then find a way to make that personal to these characters and tell that through the, you know, murder and mystery device was an exercise in you know, adapting material with a lot of freedom.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Baltimore is its own character for sure.
Yeah.
There's so much. I mean, we do know also I think the Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964 that, ended segregation in certain cities. Baltimore was always a hotbed of protests and resistance. We also know the Jewish community in that city faced their own harassment when it came to housing and things like that. So how important was it to show those parts of Baltimore so that we understood the texture of these women's lives and really what they were battling through?
I think to me it was really important to find a way to bring that texture in the texture and in the information to contextualize and humanize, also the characters, because on one hand we definitely wanted to show the disparity, the results of segregation, the fact that everything that is being done and I think it's really interesting that Maddie is what you would call passing, something that black folks use usually, that's how we know that term, but she has a nose that doesn't appear to other people as belonging to somebody who's Jewish, and she gets compliments, so you don't look Jewish as if that's a compliment, So having that context, but then also from that explaining assimilation, but doing that without giving preachy speeches, that kind of explain to you all of that context, and instead of it finding ways to learn that, but through character, So that was important to me, I guess, is to have that contrast between the personal and the historical. To inform when you're watching, what is it really that creates that disparity, and how does generational trauma of Jews and black folks can actually cause a situation, like I said before, where survival basically turns you into somebody that you may not want to be, and you discover who you are, and you're shocked by who you became.
Yeah. I think that's why I was so impressed by the names in this miniseries, because it's one way that people can shift, and Maddie does use her name to shift when she wants to pursue her dreams and she doesn't want to deal with harassment. And so what was that like for you to get to portray that on screen?
Yeah, no, I mean, that was absolutely also part of my family's story. My grandfather changed his name from Edelstein to Stevens because people wouldn't do business with him as a Jew. And so my mom grew up as Shelley Stevens, and that name changing and assimilation was a survival mechanism, but unfortunately also led to participation in the false concept of whiteness that creates like a horrible oppressive system, and is, I think, like, I loved the collision of the Jewish and black experience that Alma created in the hair salon, because like everyone I grew up with was obsessed with straightening their hair, which of course is like getting rid of your ethnicity, is like everyone was doing like the Japanese hair straightening in high school, and to find that point of similarity, but neither recognizes that at all, was a powerful moment.
I think they are powerful narratives, and I do appreciate your approach. It doesn't feel over the head. It is so subtle in the comments, in the language, and how people move, but that's how it really is in real life. Most people aren't going to be a jerk to your face. It's going to be these subtle little microaggressions that sort of chip away, and you see both Cleo and Maddie experiencing that all day, every day. So I thought that was fascinating to have those two different viewpoints, those different lenses to discover or consider. Both of these characters are married, but they want their independence. Like, these women are both there, they have dreams that they didn't get to fulfill, and it seems like they're moving towards that. I think at one point later in the series, Cleo talks about surrendering her dignity in order to provide for her children. She says she's no longer dreaming for herself. So how universal is that theme for women, you think? And I'll let you answer that one, Moses.
Yeah, I feel like life has a way over time. When you're a kid, at least speaking for myself, I could never imagine a time where I might not dream I could be all I could be. And I think sometimes life has a way of really sticking it to you. And it has done that to Cleo again and again in her life and in the series, you know what I mean? And so I think Cleo's why is her boys. And I think had it not been for them, you know, she might not have pushed as hard for as long as she has. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
What about Maddie? Because she has an interesting dynamic as a mother where, like you kind of mentioned, she is choosing herself often. But what was that like to play?
Yeah, I think we talked about there's this Shirin Neshat photograph of a woman who's completely veiled, holding the hand of her male child who's completely naked, and it just feels so symbolic of like what it is to be a woman with many obstacles in your way, and then having this being from your body have every freedom in like every opportunity open to them. And I think there's this tension, inherent tension, especially at that moment in history of, you know, her seeing this person from her own body starting to oppress her too, starting to tell her what she can and can't do, and becoming another man, you know, standing in her way of her freedom. And of course, loving him, but also feeling like, you know, seeing in him what the world is putting on her. And, you know, it's really difficult what you see throughout the series, the way she is with him, but like also very, very, I think, true to that time.
Yeah, and there's something, I don't have children. There's something really empowering about watching her choose herself a little bit, you know, because you do understand how much mothers sacrifice. And I think at some point, yeah, I didn't mind it sometimes, and sometimes you do. Alma, you became a mother during this whole process.
Yes.
Did that?
Yes.
Did that change your relationship with the material at all?
I became a mother with together with Byron Bowers, who plays Slappy Dark Johnson, Moses' husband in the show, who's here with us somewhere, maybe even in this room right now. But and it definitely, it is interesting to write something and imagine, you know, what it's like to be a mother, and then while you're editing it as a mother. So that was a very deepening experience of the material. And yeah, I mean, I think that in general, like the show, I think motherhood with both women, as different as it is there's a lot of survival that comes with it on Cleo's part. I mean, Maddie's child is older, and it's like Natalie described the dynamic so well. I don't need to add to that, but I think it's really different for Cleo because her children are so young at the you know, when the show takes place, and without throwing any spoilers in, I think that just seeing at some point that everybody around her, and I think in the whole show, every character in this show has a dream, you know, and kind of seeing what they're willing to do for those dreams, and a lot of the characters get punished for having a dream. So, Cleo has this beautiful moment, one of my favorite scenes, when she says, I can't breathe and you want me to dream, you know. So she's a character that motherhood has become so in the forefront of her, you know, day that she can't even dream for herself. And seeing that was incredibly interesting once you become a mother. And there's a lot of sacrifice that comes with it that you can only understand after you do it. I mean, in a way. I mean, you can understand it, of course, without it, but it's just experiencing it was very informative.
Yeah, powerful. And I want to stay with you, Alma, because you mentioned a little bit of the music scene, the art scene in Baltimore.
Yeah.
I want a Spotify playlist like immediately.
It exists.
Like the amount of need, like
It's
whenever
a
you're
10
putting
hours playlist. Be careful what you wish for. They all have to listen to it.
I asked for it and I expect to receive it because no, I mean just the music is another character. It just creates these tonal shifts that you mentioned earlier. And then when you have somebody like Nina Simone, I hear a lot, and she's just so powerful. And obviously, her music was so powerful and had such a
I spent
message.
nights crying just from the honor of editing to her genius. So just having her in the earphone and editing to it was like an unbelievable experience. Let me tell you that. It's a love letter. It's like so many black women musicians that have informed who I am, and I truly believe I wouldn't be not just here, but maybe like even alive and breathing without them. So I I don't know what this world would be without Nina Simone, Lauryn Hill, like Erykah Badu.
Yes.
Just Sade. I mean, just every the list goes on, and it was just kind of seeing Baltimore and creating the character of Dora that wasn't in the book. Jennifer Mogbach played her and stole my heart. It's really you don't really see you see some of it at the first episode. Yeah, but the musicality of it and the jazz in general, and just this idea of being able to have structure but also improvise is something that is, I think, informative to the show.
And it ramps up as you get through the episode, so you see a little more dancing or performance, or as an artist, I want to be in your head. How fun is it for you to create these moments where you can just have people burst out and?
It's the best. I mean, the scene we had there, it's in episode 3. It's like a scene that
Is that Sea Lion Woman?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I knew exactly. Yeah, which is a Nina.
Yeah, Nina and them both cutting between them. I mean, that was I think maybe my favorite scene in the whole show.
That's really powerful. And you mentioned that you do sing, or who mentioned that she sings? Oh.
No spoilers, but yes.
Yeah, no spoilers. But have you sang on camera before?
So
Theater, but not.
actually, well, right after this, I did a lot of singing, but no, this was my first one.
Okay.
First time thrown into a booth with Kendrick Lamar's producer, Dan Tannenbaum, and recorded a song, sent it to me, and I was like, you gotta be kidding. This is crazy. What? I was just saying, I mean, I expected a lot, but this is just game over. I couldn't believe it. It was hard. I played it out on speakers to the whole production. And everybody just couldn't believe it.
That's amazing.
She's unbelievable.
It's nuts.
It's really nuts.
Natalie, what is your maybe favorite element that was not in the book, but that was added to the miniseries? Because we know like this music world is something she seems really excited about, but what for you?
Well, Cleo is like a full-bodied, like fully fleshed out human. Yeah. I mean, she's really hinted at in the book, and between Alma and her team's writing and then really Moses's embodiment, it's just so moving. I mean, it's really one of the greatest characters I've seen. I mean, it's so much nuance and I mean, so honest and I mean, it's like, and I mean, I think something Alma and I were like, wow, she's really young. Like, this is like, she's playing like older than she is. Like, that's a really hard thing to kind of know what's coming, you know? Yeah. And she's just masterful. It's a really, really masterful person.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I want to read the book now so I can, because you are so full. I mean, you created such a full world for Cleo. So
yeah, the book I think which really is it's beautiful how she is there too, but a very different character. Yeah. I think that Laura Lippman mentioned a few times how inspired she was when she wrote the book by 2 real, murder cases that happened in Baltimore. One of them never solved, of a woman by the name of Shirley Parker. And while I was researching it, there were very different, just backgrounds to this woman that ended up really inspiring a lot of Cleo, which is like her, political involvement, the store, and her working in this jazz club, and a lot of those things kind of ended up sneaking in into the show. And then, like Natalie said, when Moses came, she just embodied it in a way that was extremely, authentic and
Powerful.
iconic, is the word I keep thinking about when I think about Moses. But yeah.
So we're running low on time. I do have one last question I'm curious about, because we watch these women go through their journey, and dreams are a theme. A lot of people have these dreams, like you said, they may be punished for pursuing, or their dreams are deferred, or they're unfulfilled dreams. And I think that's one of the most human things, is to have hope and to have dreams. And so you are all very successful women, and it probably looks like you've accomplished everything that you wanted to. But I'm curious. Well, so this is the question. So I'm curious, what do you each dream about? What is your dream that you don't want to give up on? Silly, fun, serious, whatever.
My dreams have changed the minute my daughter was born, so I'm still fresh off of that. So I'm probably not. Yeah, everything changed overnight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll come back to you. Natalie's thinking. Moses, do you have anything on the top of your head? You want me to tell you mine?
Yes.
Please.
Yes.
Let's
I thought
go.
about this. I make pottery. Ooh. I do ceramics. Wow. And my dream would be to be able to do that Seth Rogen, all the time.
Wow.
Just all the time, and just make vases for people.
Wow. Let's
and get
go.
paid for it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Let's go. I'm ordering
I will
one
sell
right
you a vase. Awesome. I'll put some flowers in it. So yeah, it could just be something like that. But I think a lot of us have these things that we put on the shelf or we don't really pursue, and I think it's interesting to know or explore those things. But.
Well, I think for me, I'll be honest in saying sometimes, it can get weary as an actor, especially as an early career actor. And I think the thing that I pray for most is that I'm not met with a ceiling, that I can keep sort of bursting through and trying different things and meeting people that are willing to see me beyond the things they've seen me as already. I've been so tremendously blessed, and I think that's the thing that
I love that. Your dream is just to keep doing what you're doing,
going.
which means you are doing the right thing.
Thanks.
I love it. Well, it was. Hey, yeah, you're pointing. Yeah.
Please.
I have a childish one.
Do it.
Let's go.
I want to have a farm with animals that I can rescue out of like slaughterhouses and bring them and take care of them.
That's not childish.
I feel like it's a
noble.
little kid dream.
That is the most.
I want to save a pig.
That's the most beautiful humanitarian.
Yeah.
I want to say babe. There's nothing wrong with that.
Babe, that's my dream. I want to be a farmer and
That's
babe.
a beautiful dream.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank each of you for taking the time to spend an hour with us. We know you're very busy, but this mini-series is amazing, guys. Make sure that you take the time to check it out. Lady in the Lake premieres July 19th on Apple TV+. Please put your hands together for Alma Har'el and Natalie.